If you look at your life and see a collection of unfinished interests, books you started but never completed, skills you explored but never fully mastered, ideas that excited you for a few weeks, then slowly faded, you may feel a very specific kind of frustration, a quiet pressure that keeps asking, why can't I just focus on one thing? Maybe at some point, you bought a guitar, started learning coding, saved videos about photography, felt curious about psychology, thought about starting a business, or suddenly became interested in learning a completely different skill. From the outside, this pattern can look confusing. People might say you lack discipline, that you get distracted easily, that you need to finally pick one direction and commit, and over time, you may start believing something is wrong with you. You may feel like you are always starting, but never arriving, always exploring, but never fully settling. And the more you compare yourself to others who seem to follow one clear path, the more behind you may feel. But psychology suggests something important. Having many interests is not always a sign of confusion. Sometimes, it is a sign of a highly curious mind trying to understand the world from multiple angles. Because not every brain is wired to follow a single straight line. Some minds naturally search for connections between different fields, between different ideas, between different ways of thinking, and this creates a pattern often misunderstood as lack of focus. But in reality, it can represent a different kind of cognitive structure, a structure sometimes described as an M-shaped mind. For a long time, success was associated with specialization. People were encouraged to choose one path, one profession, one skill, and spend years becoming deeply specialized in that single area. This worked well in environments where change was slow, where industries remained stable for decades, where mastering one skill could guarantee long-term security. But the modern world no longer operates that way. Technology changes quickly. New industries appear, old ones disappear. Problems are becoming more complex, and complex problems rarely belong to just one field. They exist between fields, between psychology and technology, between creativity and logic, between communication and data. People who have many interests often move naturally across these different areas, not because they are distracted, but because their curiosity keeps searching for patterns, for connections, for understanding, and this creates a different type of advantage. When knowledge from one area interacts with knowledge from another, new ideas often emerge. A person who understands storytelling may communicate complex technical ideas more clearly. A person interested in psychology may design products that feel more intuitive. Someone curious about design may approach problem solving with more creativity. These connections are often invisible at first, but over time, they begin forming bridges between different ways of thinking. Psychology sometimes refers to this ability as far transfer. It means applying understanding from one field to solve problems in another completely different field. Many innovative ideas come from this type of thinking. Because the mind is not limited to one perspective, it can combine perspectives. However, having many interests can also create a challenge. When everything feels interesting, choosing where to focus becomes difficult. You may feel pulled in multiple directions at the same time. You may start learning something, then discover another topic that also feels exciting, and another, and another. Eventually, this creates the feeling of constantly restarting, which can create self-doubt. Because progress appears slower compared to people following one linear path. But an important idea helps reduce this pressure. You do not need to build everything at the same time. People with many interests often benefit from what can be called sequential focus. Instead of trying to master 5 skills simultaneously, focus moves in seasons. For a period of time, one interest becomes the primary area of growth. You go deeper into that skill, understand its fundamentals, develop enough confidence to use it practically. Then, naturally, curiosity begins guiding attention toward another interest, not as distraction, but as expansion. Each season adds another layer of understanding, another pillar of capability. Over time, these pillars begin connecting. What once felt unrelated starts supporting each other. Skills interact, ideas merge, understanding becomes more flexible, and this flexibility becomes valuable in environments that constantly change. Another helpful perspective is understanding that stability and curiosity can coexist. Some people benefit from having a stable role, a consistent source of structure, while allowing curiosity to explore other interests gradually. Not every interest must immediately become a career. Some interests exist to expand thinking, to increase creativity, to develop perspective, to prevent mental rigidity. Because when the mind interacts with different types of knowledge, it becomes more adaptable, more open, more capable of adjusting when circumstances change. And adaptability has become increasingly important in uncertain environments. Having multiple areas of competence can also create resilience. If one path becomes unavailable, another option already exists. Instead of starting from zero, you continue from a different angle. This creates psychological security. Because identity is not attached to only one role, it becomes distributed across multiple capabilities. People with many interests are often not trying to avoid commitment. They are trying to understand where their abilities create the most meaning, where curiosity feels most alive, where effort feels sustainable. And this exploration takes time, especially in environments filled with constant information and possibility. Over time, clarity often emerges not from forcing one decision, but from observing which interests continue to return. Which ones maintain energy even after difficulty appears? Which ones feel naturally engaging even without external pressure? Patterns reveal themselves gradually. And when decisions are guided by observation rather than urgency, direction often becomes more stable. Professor Theo often describes this process as building internal alignment. Instead of forcing identity too quickly, space is created for identity to evolve. Because some minds are not designed for a single label. They are designed to understand relationships between ideas, to notice connections others overlook, to combine logic with creativity, structure with imagination, analysis with intuition. So if you feel like you have too many interests, it does not automatically mean you lack focus. It may simply mean your attention is exploring a wider landscape, trying to understand how different pieces connect, and over time, this pattern often creates a more adaptable way of thinking. A way of thinking that becomes increasingly valuable in complex environments, because the future often rewards those who can integrate knowledge, not only those who can repeat it. So instead of seeing curiosity as a weakness, it can be helpful to see it as a signal that your mind is naturally searching for connections, searching for understanding, searching for perspective, and perspective often creates clarity. Subscribe to Unspoken Psychology for more insights into the hidden patterns shaping human behavior. Because sometimes, what feels like confusion is actually the beginning of a more flexible way of thinking.